Hi, Krista.
Hey, Tim.
How you
How are
doing?
you?
Thanks,
Good.
thanks for getting me everything. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Krista. Hi, guys.
Hi, Tamara. How are you?
Good. How are you, Tim?
Good, good. Thanks.
Krista, do we need to swear new people in? Because there's some alternates becoming new.
Yeah, we have the I have the oath to office, but I'm mailing them to everybody.
Yeah.
But I have them here so we can do everybody together.
Right. Does Yolanta know she has to do that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Hey, Krista.
Yeah.
When I when we go to making the motions for the for the attorney, the planner, and the engineer, do I have to read everything, or is it just everybody?
No, you don't have to read the resolution. You just have to read the title of the resolution.
Gotcha.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi, Elena.
Hi, Elena.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. Like your pictures.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I've been saving up since quarantine for a new laptop so I can Zoom from home. So
There
I
you
can
go.
finally Zoom from home.
Excellent. Excellent.
You can be all nice and comfy now, Elena.
Yeah, I can, you can't even tell I'm wearing pajama pants.
Right. I'm in the office with pajama pants. I'm like, no one's going to be here. I'm wearing pajama pants.
No judgment.
You're muted. There you go.
I've turned my speaker up too a little bit. There we go. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. No complaints here on the farm.
That's good.
Hey, Rick, good evening.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm fine, sir, and you?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Hello, Candace.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Sleepy.
Sleepy. What are you going to do when you get old like me?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to stop coming to these meetings, Rick. How's everybody else?
Doing good, Candace. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good, Candace. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, Tim.
John, do you have a green screen on?
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of it. How do you do that? Yeah, God.
How do you do
I'm the
that?
invisible man. What do you want?
Let me see here. I do you use different ones on these things.
You see where it says stop video,
Stop
John?
video, yeah.
You click
Okay.
the arrow.
Okay.
And then get rid of the virtual background.
Yeah.
There we go. Wait a minute. What happened there?
Well, you
Well,
have to bring yourself back onto video.
Yeah, you hit stop video. You have to hit the arrow next, right in the box of stop video.
Yeah.
What I did.
There you, wait, oh, that's Mark.
Where'd he go?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Let's try it again. Huh.
Hit stop video.
That's what I did.
But have you re-engaged the video or are you still on stop video?
No, I re-engaged. There's something going on here.
Is
You
there,
might have to log out and log in again. I had a similar problem a few meetings ago, and the only way to get around it was to come out and come back in.
Okay, let's see if that works. Oh, there we
Well,
go.
you're back.
There you go.
there you go.
You're back.
All right. Oh, I was lost on the green. Oh, it's farming. All right.
Hey, Yolanta,
Hello.
we're gonna have swearing in of re-elected members.
Okay, very good.
Mike Mills, is the beard new?
No. No.
I don't remember it.
Oh, I've had a beard for years, and then
Okay.
I shave it, and then it grows back.
Okay. Because, I mean, I saw you Monday night, but you were masked up, so.
Oh yeah.
Krista, do we know if Natalie and Jackson are joining? Oh, here comes Jackson.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and just, hey, Jackson, I just want to say, I don't know if you know, any of you know, but I want to give my condolences to Jackson. Bill Reeder passed away on Saturday,
Yes,
his dad. So,
his uncle.
his uncle, I mean, yeah. So I want to give condolences to Jackson on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
Your
welcome.
uncle was one of the people in 2016 that encouraged me to run for Township Committee. And he was never shy about telling me what was wrong in the township or what needed to be fixed.
He's a good guy.
And he was very happy with the outcome of the 2016 and 2017 elections. And I'm glad that he was around to see that. And
Absolutely. Couldn't agree.
he was a great guy, and he's going to be very sorely missed.
And Rick, he's another one you should put a bench in the park on for all the stuff that he did in this community.
Well, I was going to talk to Jackson's father about that. Because I was looking at his obituary and didn't realize how many things he had done in the community over the years. I knew he was very active, but I didn't realize just how active. So I hear you on that one, John.
Good. Yeah, I don't think there was one thing in the community he did not do. So,
The list is long.
yes.
Honestly, I was surprised to see all the things that were listed there. There's a lot of stuff I didn't even know about.
Well, when I was going through the minutes in conjunction with another township matter, Bill's name was coming up a lot. Came very clear to me that he was very, very active in the community over the years. Krista, it's 7:31, so, and I think we have everybody.
I was going by my computer, so
Oh, okay,
I have it. I don't know. We're kind of slow, but I'll go.
okay.
So I'd like to call the East Amwell Township Planning Board reorganization meeting to order. If everybody would like to stand to salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One
One
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
with liberty and justice for all.
In compliance with the Open Publics Meeting Act, this is a regular scheduled meeting pursuant to the annual meeting notice as published in the December 17th, 2020 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Hunterdon County Democrat, filed in the Township Clerk's office, and posted on the bulletin board and Township website on January 7th, 2021. Mark Castellano.
Here.
Tamara Lee.
Here,
Mike Mills.
he's muted.
Natalie Nelson.
Here.
Jackson Ryder.
Here.
John Saramba.
here,
Jason Silverthorne.
Here.
Marnie Stetson.
Here.
Rick Wolf.
Here,
And Tim Willie.
Here.
Then we have Planner Gable.
Here.
Attorney Maziarz.
Here.
And Engineer Burr.
Here.
At this time, I like a nomination for chair for the planning board for 2021.
I'd like to nominate Tim Willie to serve as chair of the planning board for 2021.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Okay. We're going to take a roll call vote. Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes,
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
Yes.
John Saramba,
yes,
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Marnie Stetson,
Yes.
Rick Wolf,
Very happily and enthusiastically, yes.
Hi. All right, Tim.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your confidence in me, and I'm going to do my best to be a good chair. So, hopefully we get back to live meetings. I'm not a big computer guy, as you all know, but hopefully 2021 is going to turn this all around. So, at this time, I need a nomination for vice chairperson for the planning board for the year 2021.
I'd like to nominate Marnie Stetson.
I'll second that nomination.
Marnie, I hope you'll entertain that. Okay,
Roll call vote on that.
Okay, is Marty good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Marty.
Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
yes,
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
Yes.
John Saramba,
yes,
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Rick Wolf,
Equally happily and enthusiastically, yes.
and Tim Willie.
Yes.
Good, because Tim's going to need to teach me everything I need to know.
I'll do my best, Marty. I
Okay.
promise.
I'm counting on it.
You know, Marty, the rest of us aren't far out ahead of you. It's a relatively young planning board in terms of experience on the planning board. So we're all learning fast and furiously, but we appreciate you being willing to take on this role. I think with your background, you'll be terrific.
Thank you for the confidence.
Okay, moving forward. Appointment of Planning Board Administrator, Krista Parsons. Can I get a motion to appoint Krista Parsons as the Planning Board Administrator?
Chairman, before you take that motion and second, I understand that there are still planning board members that have not been sworn in to their positions yet.
Okay.
So before you take any motions or make any resolutions for appointments, I would suggest that maybe we can swear them in first.
Yes, ma'am. Sounds like a perfectly good idea to me.
Okay, now who will be swearing these people? Would you like me to, or will the mayor be swearing these people in?
You can.
I have the thing in front of me. I can do it.
Or our board secretary can do it as well, because you are a clerk, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good.
Okay. I do solemnly swear.
Who's all?
Oh,
getting
I'm
sworn
sorry.
in?
So it would be Marnie, Natalie, Tim, Tamara, John, and that's it.
No, Jason, Rick,
Oh, Jason, Rick,
me,
I'm sorry.
and Mark.
Yes, Jason, Rick, and Mark, because they're one-year appointees.
Yep.
That's the whole board.
Okay, I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly
Solemnly
swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will
that I will
support
support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
And the
Constitution of the State of
New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I
that I will bear true
faith
faith and allegiance
to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
do
To
this.
to the same and the governments established in the United States and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the
Under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully,
faithfully,
impartially, and justly
impartially and justly
perform all the duties of the office of the planning board
perform
all the duties of the office
of the
planning
planning
board.
That's it.
All right. All right. Now we're going to move forward.
Just so you know, you're all going to be getting your oaths in the mail with a return envelope. So you'll just sign them and return them.
You don't have to mail mine, Krista or Mark's. We could
Yours is in
sign
your
them tomorrow.
folder. Yours is in your folder.
That's all for you, Krista. You're good there?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead, Tim.
appointment of the Planning Board Administrator, Krista Parsons. Can I get a motion to appoint Krista Parsons as the Planning Board Administrator?
I'll move to appoint Krista as the planning board administrator.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
yes.
John Saramba,
Yes.
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Marnie Stetson,
Yes.
Rick Wolf,
Yes.
and Tim Willie.
Yes. Next, we need to authorize contracts for our professionals for 2021. The first one is resolution in the planning board number 2021-01 for professional attorney services. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve Yolanta Maziarz as our planning board attorney for 2021.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Next is our planner.
Do you want to?
Resolution.
We need to vote.
You need to vote.
We need a roll call. Sorry.
Yes. Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
Yes.
John Saramba,
Yes.
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Marnie Stetson,
Yes.
Rick Wolf,
Yes.
and Tim Willie.
Yes.
Whew, thank you. I appreciate that very much. It's good to be with you.
Good to have you back.
Thank you.
The second is for our planner, resolution planning board number 2021-02, professional planning services. Can I get a motion to accept the contract, please?
I'll move to appoint Elena Gable as our planner for 2021.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Mark
Roll call.
Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
Yes.
John Saramba,
Yes.
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Marnie Stetson,
Yes.
Rick Wolf,
Yes.
and Tim Willie.
Yes.
Thank you very much for reappointing me. I appreciate it so much.
We
Our
appreciate
pleasure.
you. The third is the contract for a professional engineer, resolution planning board number 2021-03. Can I get a motion to approve the engineer and contract, please?
I'll move to approve Bill Burr as our engineer for 2021 in the contract.
I'll second.
Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Natalie Nelson,
Yes.
John Saramba,
Yes.
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Marnie Stetson,
Yes.
Rick Wolf,
Yes.
Tim Willie.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. Happy New Year.
Welcome, Bill. Thank you. The next, I need to get a motion to approve Robert's Rules of Order with exception of board recognizing members of the public to provide information out of turn. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The next is the meeting schedule. Has everybody had time to look at that? Everything look good with that, right?
Mhm.
Can I get a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2021?
I'll move to approve it.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I got you, Tamara.
I think so.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Krista, do I have to go over the Zoom meeting stuff or is that public knowledge?
It's public knowledge. You can just state that we're, it's gonna be, via Zoom.
Until further
Until
notice.
further notice.
It is going to be Zoom meetings. And hopefully 2021 is going to bring a big change and we'll get back to being live or half and half.
Hybrid.
Who knows what, but on to better things. Hopefully 2021 brings it around. Chris, there's any changes in the agenda for tonight?
No, we don't have any review of the agenda.
Okay. Can I get a motion to open for citizens to speak on items not on the agenda?
So
I'll
moved.
move.
All
I'm
in
gonna
favor?
do Mark, who was second.
Right.
I was.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody in the public out there?
Candace, Francis, and there's a Galaxy. Any one of you would like to speak? No?
Can I get a motion to close to the
I'll
public?
move to close.
Second.
Natalie? All in favor, Tim?
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Presentations of minutes. Has everybody had time to look over from December 9th, 2020?
Yes.
Everybody's good with everything?
I have no changes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, next we have the resolution from last month, I believe, for block 31, lot 4.03. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move to approve that resolution.
This was for the garage, right?
That's correct.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. All in favor, or that's a roll call. I'm sorry, Krista.
Yep. Just 1 minute. Let me see who was on that roll call real quick. Since we're in a new year, does it matter, Yolanta? We have to go with the same members? I just want to make
Yes.
sure.
The people eligible for voting on memorialization are the people who voted yes.
Yes, right.
To approve.
Okay. Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Tim Willie,
Yes.
and Rick Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, the second resolution is the resolution for the Monroes, block 38, lot 12. Can I get a motion to approve that resolution, please?
Could I ask a question before we move to approve it?
Yes, sir.
Did the Monroe's attorney have an opportunity to review this?
I just got it yesterday. I didn't hear back from the attorneys.
Does that matter, Yolanta? Does their attorney have to review it before we approve it?
I generally will consult with an attorney when it's something complicated, but this one was so simple that I can't imagine that she would have any issue. And the conditions that were imposed, the attorney herself, because I looked at the video again, just to make sure that it was the attorney speaking, the attorney herself agreed to all of them. So it's not as if that, we've done anything that she would need to review. And generally resolutions belong to the board. They are what the board would like them to be. Oftentimes attorneys will not agree with my resolutions, but the board members do. That's the most important thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So we're good to move forward with it.
You need a motion, yeah.
I need a motion to approve the resolution, please.
So moved.
Can I
I'll
get a
second.
second, please?
Roll call. Mark Castellano,
Yes.
Tamara Lee,
Yes.
Mike Mills,
Yes.
Jason Silverthorne,
Yes.
Tim Willie,
Yes.
and Rick Wolf.
Yes.
On to unfinished business. Farm project.
Farm project. Okay, so I submitted another status report. I've talked with a couple of important ag agencies, described the project to them. They gave me some valuable feedback, but they were generally very enthusiastic about it. Since I produced this, I also spoke with the Northeast Organic Farmers Association. They were similarly enthusiastic about it. Also, Catherine and I have finished putting together the email directory. We've integrated, she's integrated the emails into our original farm inventory. And I now have my own, directory of farmers and farm owners, which includes over 180 email addresses. So we have a way of contacting all the farmers in the community, and I'm going to be actually sending them notices about the meeting on the 28th. And that's really the big thing. In 2 weeks, on the 28th, we have a joint meeting between the Township Committee and the Planning Board. We've asked Yolanta there, not that there's going to be any action taken, but there may be questions from the audience, and it will be helpful to have at least one attorney present. I don't think Frank needs to be there. I would like to suggest maybe that Tim and Rick and Krista and I have a short Zoom meeting before that, before the meeting on the 28th, just so that we can talk about how joint meetings go, because I don't know that any of you have any of you been in a joint meeting before between township, the governing body and planning board?
No.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it might be good if we just talked, I mean, it's not all that complicated, but it might be nice if we just talk about it for a few minutes in advance of the meeting.
Sure.
Because technically it really is a township committee meeting and the planning board's being invited to it. But both boards have to, you know, open their own part of the meeting. We need to take roll call and all that sort of thing. So I just want to go over that with everybody.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, we can set that up afterwards.
Tam?
Yeah.
Based on feedback I'm getting, we may have a large turnout for this meeting.
Okay,
Perhaps the largest turnout since I've been on the township committee. I also suspect that a fair number of people are going to want to speak. Should we, in the first instance, limit comments to, say, 5 minutes so that everybody who wants to speak has an opportunity to speak? And then if people need more time, we can do it at the end? Or how do we want to manage that? Because I'm a little nervous if one person gets up and goes on for a half hour or 45 minutes when you have a crowd that large. And I anticipate we're going to have elected officials. We're going to have officials from various organizations, not-for-profit organizations. How would you suggest we manage that?
yeah, it's very common to limit people to say something like that. I'm going to stress the fact that this is just the beginning of a community, and there are going to be a lot more community meetings, both at, I'm sure, at the planning board and township committee meetings. So people will have lots of opportunity to engage, but you know, hopefully if I say that, they won't feel the need to go on and on, but they might just want to get their ideas out there. So I don't think there's any problem with limiting it. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think 5 minutes ought to be enough.
Right.
Assuming we have the turnout that I'm anticipating, and then if people need more time at the end, we could do that, which is effectively the way the freeholders run their meeting, and it's the way that the township committee runs its meetings. We have a time limit on the first open to the public, and if anybody needs more time, they could do it at the end of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But this way we give everybody an opportunity to speak without having to sit for 3 hours if you get a few people who need a lot more time to say what they want to say.
Right, right. You do know we have 3 speakers. So Elena will, well, I'll go first with a short introduction, then Elena will do her presentation, Mike will do his, and then I'll follow up with mine. Then we'll probably take questions from Township Committee and then Planning Board, and then we can open up to the public for comment.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Tamara. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
And I just saw a question come in from the
I got it.
public. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was answering it.
Oh, okay. Yes, whether or not the meeting will be on Zoom, someone asked.
Yes, it's going to be Zoom and in person. The information's on the website.
It is going to be a hybrid?
Yes, it is, Tim, but the in-person will be limited. We're asking people who want to come in person to make a reservation because there are only so many people that we can accommodate in the courtroom and still maintain social distancing. So people who want to come in person will have to make a reservation with Krista.
Okay.
The Township Committee, I think, will be in person, but the Planning Board will not.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Sounds good. Under new business, we don't have any this month.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
can I just make a comment if you don't mind on the
Yes,
new
sir.
business? I'd like to propose,
We didn't add anything to the agenda review, so you can't add anything to the agenda, John.
well, I was just going to ask for a resolution to recognize past members who just were not reappointed. for their service that they have given to the community. You know, Francis and Gail.
We can do that when we get to oral reports.
Okay, then I'll do it then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to items for discussion. Tamara has been working diligently on putting together a set of bylaws for the planning board. Most planning boards have a set of bylaws that they go by that, you know, control the whole system here. We currently don't have a set of bylaws. So Tamara, I'm going to hand this over to you and you can run with it, but Tamara's taken a lot of time to put this together. And I think it's a nice piece of work, and I appreciate it tremendously, Tamara. I look forward to everybody's response to it, but I really think it's something that we need to move forward on. Thank you. But here to you, Tamara.
Well, thank you. When I joined the board, I had asked for a set of the bylaws, and we didn't have one. I wasn't surprised because at that point we were still a fairly new joint board, but there weren't even any bylaws from the previous planning board. So for a while now, I've thought it would be very helpful for us to have a set of bylaws. Essentially, bylaws are the how-to manual of how the board should operate. And so particularly for new members who want to know how things work, it's sort of a resource for them to go to. But it also covers, all sorts of eventualities, some of which don't come up very often. And, now we would have a resource to go to see how do we handle a particular situation. I started with a basic template for planning board bylaws. I worked in a few different sections that I knew from other bylaws that I was familiar with. And then I tried to simplify the language a little bit, because a lot of what we do on this board is try to make things user-friendly. And in the end, I came up with what you have in front of you. What I'm asking is if planning board members are interested, if you would just review this between now and the February meeting. You're welcome to contact me in the interim if you have any comments. If there are sections that aren't clear or sections that are too wordy or should be simplified, any place where you think we might be able to improve the instruction or the comments, just call me, send me an email, something, and I'll be happy to rework this to make it better. I mean, if we all put our heads together on this, I'm sure we can make it better. But I'd like to get it into a form that everybody's comfortable with so that we can then adopt it and then finally have a set of bylaws that we can work from. And then any planning board members that come in the future, they'll have a reference as well. So it's just really helpful to have, in my experience.
Yeah, I just like to make a comment, Tamara. I actually read it already. And I think it's very good. I think you did a lot of work into this. And I think it's going to clear up a lot of questions that people in the audience have, and even on the planning board members have, as to the rules of record and everything else going forward. It was really a good job.
Thank you. Good. Okay. So is everybody okay with taking a look at this and putting it on the agenda for next month?
Certainly.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara, for all your effort on that again.
My pleasure.
It's something that, I think we should have, it's for sure. It makes everybody's life, it's like a guidebook. So thank you again. So we'll put that on the agenda for next month. Everybody in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Next on the items for discussion, as you heard me at the last meeting, everybody knows that marijuana was voted to become legal in our state. And I believe at the time right now, we are waiting for the governor to sign the big piece of paper, and it's going to be a done deal. So I think we need to be ahead of things. So we have asked Elena to, kind of give us an idea of what she knows about all this in layman's terms, I guess is for lack of a better word. So Elena, I'm going to hand this over to you. I guess everybody has gotten your memorandum from the email today. I'm not sure if I didn't have time to read the whole thing, but looks like an interesting read. So
Yeah.
Elena, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. So I prepared this memo based upon the 244-page bill that was approved by both the House and the Senate. So essentially, like what Tim just said, is that the bill did pass both the House and the not the House and the Assembly, the state Assembly and the state Senate. However, it's waiting to be signed by the governor. Apparently, there's going to be yet another cleanup bill having to do with some of the social justice and underage use and possession language that's contained in the bill. For land use purposes, we don't see any of the requirements being changed. So I tried to, in my memo, give like as much of a succinct and as much information as possible contained that would be within the planning board's purview. So the first, couple pages are all some like key definitions that are referred to throughout the bill. There are some timing issues though with this bill. So one of the things I just wanted, I'm letting all my boards and clients be aware of is that once the bill is signed by the governor, municipalities only have 180 days to act on permitting or prohibiting cannabis uses. And so if you don't choose to act, you have to wait 5 years. And by default, there are, I believe it's cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale, distribution, and delivery, I believe, are all permitted in existing industrial zones. And then retail would be permitted in commercial zones where retail uses are permitted. So what that means for East Amwell is that by default, a cannabis retailer would be permitted in the local business zone. But not necessarily the highway commercial zone, because you only permit a specific type of retail use in the highway commercial zone. So it's not, I think it would be a hard argument to say that, cannabis retail would be permitted by default in the highway commercial. And also just to clarify what I just said, the retail use for cannabis would be a conditional use. So you would need to come up with conditions for that use. Otherwise, it would just be a conditional use with no conditions, which is kind of an interesting situation to be in. So there are 6 types of classes of cannabis, and I just listed them: the cultivation, manufacturing, wholesale, distribution, retail, and delivery. There's also cannabis consumption areas, which you can either permit or prohibit. You can enact municipal taxes between the different types of uses as they are permitted, or what you choose to permit within the township. So municipalities can regulate the location, manner, number of establishment, distributors or delivery services, and hours of operation. You can permit or prohibit one or more of the 6 classes of licenses. But you can't prohibit, delivery taking place in your municipality from another location outside of your township. Trying to go through this quickly. So for cannabis consumption areas, on page 8 of my report, I do include some information about, the requirements for those areas. Like I said, you do not have to permit cannabis consumption areas, which are on site, like vape lounges, or, the indoor consumption areas need to abide by the building ventilation for cigar lounges. And then you can also have outdoor consumption areas as well, but you have to show and be approved by the commission that, The migration, seepage, or recirculation of smoke or other exhaled material will not occur to any indoor public place or workplace. And you have to, screen the whole area from the public right of way. So you can't stand on the sidewalk and look on the property and see somebody lighting a joint, essentially. And so, like I said, there's a transfer tax and a user tax, which range between 1% and 2%, which I believe the municipality gets to keep. And the taxes that actually, they are collected and administered by the CFO. The licensee is required to pay the tax. Unpaid taxes are treated the same way as real estate taxes and become a lien on the property with interest. Other considerations include that cultivations are not allowed to be located on farmland assessed land, so you don't get the tax breaks from farmland assessment for any of the cannabis classes. My guess is that it would either be assessed then as industrial or a commercial use. And so the last section of my report, I just kind of posed some questions for the board to kind of think about and consider as it relates to planning. The first question is, do you want to prohibit all the classes, or do you want to permit some of them and prohibit some of the others? Do you want to, do just the medical alternative treatment centers, or is the township is also interested in looking at personal use? What specific classes of licenses are you interested in? And also whether or not you want to permit on-site consumption. And then, what the types of limitations would the township want to enact, whether it be what zones are they located in, if you wanted to produce a standard relating to the location to surrounding uses or single family homes, public schools. I'm sure there's existing legislation that, says you can't have these uses within so many feet of something, but I would have to go into more detail and look through with a bit more of a fine eye. If you wanted to regulate the hours of operation and how many licenses would be permitted for each of the classifications of the licenses. So that's a brief summary of a very large bill. So I could take any questions anybody might have, and I'll do my best to answer them.
It didn't look to me like, the fact that 5 of the classes would just become automatic in industrial zones sort of saves us a little bit because we don't even have an industrial zone.
Correct.
Right. So you're really just worried about our retail zones.
And, whether or not you wanted to permit, if you wanted to permit the other classes in another zone, which zone would that be kind of thing as well.
Right.
Well, what I found interesting is that you can't grow the marijuana on farmland if it's assessed as farmland. Now, most farms have a 1 or 2 acre exception area that's not assessed as farmland. Sometimes the exception area is larger. So I suppose in theory, you could grow the marijuana on your exception area and not lose the farmland assessment on your farmland. But if you want to grow it on the farmland, you would, as Elena said, I assume you'd lose your farmland assessment. You'd have to relinquish that.
Yes. I think the justification for that is, it's going to be far more lucrative to grow marijuana rather than corn or tomatoes.
Right, but if you lose your farmland assessment, your property taxes are going up a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they are.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question on that, Rick. So if let's say you have 20 acres of farmland and now you're going to use 2 acres of that to grow marijuana, but you're going to continue to grow 18 acres of corn, do you lose the whole 20 or do you just lose the 2?
I think we're going to need to wait for guidance from the SADC before anybody can answer these questions. I mean, there are going to be a number of regulations other than, that will be spawned by virtue of this being passed and being signed by the governor. But there are good many other regulations that are going to have to be changed in response to this. So we will await to see what they are going to do with farmland assessment. I know that this was an issue that was reviewed at some point by the League of Municipalities, by the legislative subcommittee. And, you know, the consensus there was, you know, it isn't fair to compare marijuana cultivation or growth to other types of crops. So, you know, and that is really not the reason historically why farmland assessment was implemented. So we're going to have to wait for regulations. We're going to have to wait for some guidance from the ag boards.
Okay.
Yeah, John, the bill doesn't address your question. I've actually pulled the bill today and read it.
Yep.
And really all it says is that you can't cultivate. It originally said grow, and then they changed it to cultivate marijuana on farmland that's assessed as farmland. But it doesn't answer your question. Can you split the baby and hive off part of your farm and relinquish the farmland assessment and keep the farmland assessment on the rest of it?
Yeah, well, that was the accounting in me, thinking about it.
Elena,
Well, the other issue I think is, I subscribe to Lancaster farming. I know Mike does as well. Perhaps others of you on the call do, but there have been articles in Lancaster farming over the last year or more dealing with growing hemp and growing cannabis. And apparently a big issue, perhaps the big issue growing cannabis, is the smell. And from what I've been reading in the articles, apparently the smell is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I could see that being a problem if you're doing anything of any scale, because while we have lots of farmland, we don't have lots of large parcels of farmland. In other words, typically there are houses that are not that far from the farmland.
Mm-hmm.
And so the odor issue could be a very big issue.
Right. Elena, could you just talk about the micro businesses a little bit?
Absolutely. So a micro business, let me look at the definition, is so a micro business is defined by the statute. It can be a cultivation, manufacturing, wholesaler, distributor, retailer, or delivery service that has no more than 10 employees, occupies a cannabis establishment occupying an area of no more than 2,500 square feet. And in the case of cultivation, grow the cannabis in no more than 2,500 square feet and does not have a horizontal plane taller than 24 feet. It's no more than 1,000 cannabis plants each month. And in the case of manufacturing, there's no more than 23 1,000 pounds of usable cannabis. They tend to be smaller scale, and there are standards that I believe it's 10% of all the or 25% of all the licenses are proposed to be micro businesses, and then a minimum of 10% per class are proposed to be reserved for micro businesses as well. So these are smaller scale establishments as defined by the statute.
And they might fit in more easily into a community like this. It's easier to fit in a smaller business.
Right, yes. So
larger.
that's something else to consider as well. If I'd have to double check the statute to make sure you're allowed to, stay whether you want only micro businesses or, if you can choose based upon, I guess, the operation type. But yeah, so yeah, and that might be, more helpful in East Amwell compared to some of the other larger, bigger scale
Right.
grow houses.
Right. I'm just trying to imagine how much pressure we're going to be under from the cannabis industry itself. And one thing that I'm thinking about is our proximity to Pensy, because I don't think they have a similar law, right?
No.
So,
They're thinking about it. They're talking about it, but that,
Right.
they,
which makes me think we might be an attractive location for
yeah, jump
people in
across,
this field.
jump across 202
Yeah, so we sort
or
of
the
need
free
to know
bridge,
what we want.
or the free bridge.
And having been born and raised in Pennsylvania, I could say with a high degree of confidence that there would be a tremendous demand for marijuana from Pennsylvania residents.
Elena, for the different, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
For the different classes, is a licensee typically one of the classes, or is someone a cultivator and a manufacturer? And what is the difference between a cultivator and a manufacturer?
Sure. So I believe that you can only have one type of license. So you can either be a distributor, you can either be a wholesaler, you can either be a retailer. And so I don't believe you're allowed to be a distributor and a delivery service. You have to kind of pick one, and that's what your business is my understanding of it. Yolanta, do you have any more insight on that?
No, I agree with you. I have looked at the legislation as well. I looked at it about a month ago. But I believe that you're correct, that you can hold one type of license.
Right, but then the question is, what is a U? For example, if I set up LLC number 1 to cultivate and LLC number 2 to distribute, can LLC 1 get a cultivator license and LLC 2 get a distribution license? And if the answer is no, then can I partner with John Saramba where I cultivate and he distributes, and we have an upper tier partnership and we're splitting the revenue from both businesses? So, we'll probably have to wait to see what the rules say, the regulations say under this statute as to what you can do.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
If they don't answer those questions, you can bet that creative minds out there are going to have multiple licenses under a single umbrella.
Yeah, by the way, Rick, I'm in.
Absolutely. There are a number of loopholes in this legislation as it is for creative minds. So,
And we'll be creative.
yeah, and there's still a lot of work to do.
But to answer your other question, Marna, I think, the difference, a cultivator grows it and a manufacturer processes it after it's been grown.
Right, but the key to making money in this business is owning the supply chain from start to finish.
Right.
That's how the creative LLCs are going to come into effect.
Mm-hmm.
There are also, I believe, adverse federal income tax consequences to growing marijuana.
Yes.
There's been discussion about changing those rules, but if I recall correctly, you get taxed on your gross income, you don't get any deductions.
That's
Right.
correct.
So it can be really ugly because growing marijuana is somewhat labor intensive. So you have labor expenses, and if you can't deduct them and you're taxed on your gross income, it can be a difficult proposition. Whether that'll continue, particularly as more states legalize it, I don't know, but I think that's how the rules work right now.
Yeah,
And
they
is
do-
it
they do,
still
Rick.
a cash business because of the disparity
Processing.
between state and federal?
Yeah,
I
For the
believe,
most part, it's cash business.
yeah,
Yeah, I
credit card
actually-
companies won't process it, banks.
Right.
Well, I actually do,
You need a safe in your house.
Rick, I actually do tax returns for a couple of them out in Oregon. And the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
You get taxed on the gross and you have to capitalize your expenses. And then whenever the federal government is going to say, okay, now you can deduct it, you'll be able to go back and amend your tax returns to do it. And by the way, New Jersey is going to get around, because the other thing is that because you're selling marijuana, it's not federally regulated, you can't use a bank. So there's a lot of problems with that too, because the bank, it's against the federal law, so they won't take, technically illegal money. So the state of New Jersey is developing a state bank in order to take money in to get these businesses going. So it's getting to be a very interesting type of business.
Well, I think one thing the planning board's going to need to know is what does the township committee want that 2%?
Look,
Don't ask
the
her back.
Township Committee wants as much money as we can get, particularly in 2021, given that we have a hole in our budget. That said, my own view is this is a decision that I really want a lot of input from the residents before this decision is made.
Well, yeah, I got a
Whether
question.
we're going to allow this. I would want public hearings. I would want them to be highly publicized so that people understand we're considering this. When I spoke with Elena yesterday, I had viewed this process as a trifurcated process. Roughly 2 months for us to figure out what we think we'd like to do. Then 2 months for us to air this to the public and get public input. And then 2 months to actually implement whatever we decide to do. That's not written in stone, 2, 2, and 2, but I think it is a trifurcated process.
Well, I got a question. I mean, do you think that, and this is for Yolanta, should it be a local referendum on a voting ballot to see what the residents would want?
Well, that's not required. I mean, once the law is signed by the governor and we see what the regulations say, this is something that the governing body is going to be permitted to enact as a regulation, as a local regulation. It's not necessary to go to referendum.
Okay.
Right, but I agree with what John said. It's something we should consider, because one option available to us is just to initially say no to everything because we can't get it done within the 180 days. And by the way,
exactly,
Elena, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the 180 days could turn out to be more than 180 days because it's the later of 180 days or 45 days after that committee is seated. And the way things work in New Jersey, it may take forever to seat the committee. But in any event, we could always say no to everything and then have a referendum to see what the public wants. And then if we say no to everything, can we then amend the ordinance to allow certain things if that's what the public wants?
That's something. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe that if you prohibit everything across the board, you have to wait 5 years before you can change it. That's my understanding. Yolanta, is that?
You know what? I would have to reread that off the top of my head. We were focused more when we were looking at this legislation on what happens if you don't prohibit it and it is permitted by caveat almost, where the municipality hasn't permitted it, but it is permitted by statute because you didn't prohibit it. What happens then? We never really looked at the flip side. It almost appeared to us when we were looking at it that that would be a strategy that might be employed by numerous municipalities, just to outlaw everything and then really look at it, study it. That would take some time, and then pass ordinances later. I don't know that these bills, or that this bill prohibited it then when we were reviewing it at that time, but they may have changed that. You may be right. So I'd have to take a look at that again.
Yeah, I believe there's a 5-year period. When you make your action, you are on, I'm not sure if you can make a second action within that 180-day period. But I do know that it's like once you make your action and the 180 days runs out, you have to wait 5 years before you could change it.
I'm looking at a summary right now. I printed out a 29-page summary that the Senate put out. It says the failure of a municipality to timely enact an ordinance prohibiting such operations
Right.
result in any class of cannabis business that is not prohibited from operating within the local jurisdiction as being permitted to operate therein for a period of 5 years. So the 5 years may be when you fail to do something, you're
That's
stuck
what I
for
thought.
5 years, as
That's what
opposed
I
to if you affirmatively do something.
Okay.
Correct. That's what I thought, because the discussion that we had when we were reviewing this legislation was, hey, well, this is a good idea. How about if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know which direction you want to go in, just prohibit everything and then revisit it in a year or whenever a municipality decides that they want to buy in. Now, will they change that in the regulations? Will they change that eventually in the statute? Maybe, because once municipalities see how lucrative it is potentially for other municipalities, they may want in. Too many municipalities may want in. I think this legislation was passed with the thought that it's not going to go everywhere. It is not going to be that popular.
Well, they're also limiting, I believe, the number of licenses initially.
Correct. Like liquor licenses, you can't open anywhere. Or,
Right,
you know,
so
wherever
it's
you want.
not going to be a free-for-all, at least initially, in terms of the number of licenses.
Right.
It'll probably be similar as to how the medical license were rolled out, how it started with, I think, like 3. I'm not even sure how many there are now. I think there are more than 10. And this, I'm not even sure. So yeah, so it's not, when you say you're going to permit it, it doesn't guarantee you're even getting one, is another way to look at it also. So, but there are a lot of question marks about, you know, what exactly does this all mean, and how exactly, you know, what are some of the impacts on the towns that, you know, may not be foreseen. So I just wanted to bring this information to you so you can be aware of it. And so we can kind of try to put together a strategy moving forward. We don't need to, to have a solid answer tonight or even next month. But it is something that, you know, we think is important and that, you know, the township should be aware of.
Well, I think this leads to the next question, which is really the question that's on the agenda. Do we want to set up some sort of subcommittee to take a deep dive into this on behalf of the planning board and then report back at next month's meeting? Because I don't know when the governor is going to sign this, but we have to assume that once he does, it will be 180 days. That may not be a correct assumption, as I said earlier, but for the time being, we have to assume that we have 180 days to make a decision. That's not a lot of time. So my own view is we really need to get moving on this. And ideally, we should have our arms around this by February's meeting. Not every detail, but we should have a much better sense of how all of this is going to work based on what information is available to us. So I'm thinking we ought to set up a subcommittee and charge that subcommittee with taking a deep dive on this issue.
I agree, for sure. Do we have any volunteers? Anybody that's interested in it that has a little bit of time to do a little deeper research on it?
And should it be a subcommittee that's comprised solely of planning board, or should it be 1 or 2 members from the planning board, 1 or 2 members from the township committee, and 1 or 2 members from the board of health?
That kind of makes sense. I mean, because you know, it's not we've got to have everybody's input on this. I mean, you know, it's that big. I think it's that big. I mean, it's, you know, it's definitely.
Well, I just joined the New Jersey Business Cannabis Association while we were talking. Why not?
John is moving into high gear on this.
Oh, yes. So I'll forward all the emails that I can to everybody when I get them. So
I agree. I think it would be good to have somebody from, at least one person from Township Committee on there, so that we know how Township Committee might feel. We can get some reaction.
I mean, I'm thinking John Mills would be ideal for this if he's willing to do it. He was a state trooper for 25 years.
And he's
I
not
have to
here.
believe he's going to bring a lot to the table. And so I can ask John if he's willing to serve on the committee, and then maybe see if there's even another person on the Township Committee who's willing to serve. I can reach out to Tracy Carluccio tomorrow and ask her if she could poll the masses on the Board of Health and see if we could get 1 or 2 members from the Board of Health to join. And then the question is getting a couple of people from the Planning Board to join.
Any volunteers out there? I'm not hearing much. Does anybody want to dive in on this?
I can look at some of the farming issues.
Okay.
As far as cultivation goes, but after hearing that, I really don't want to have any involvement if I lose my farming assessment.
Right.
But I think it's a good idea to have a joint task force.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be like a limited.
Mike, if you're willing to join, I think it's a great idea, because I think we need a real farmer presence.
My
Not
dog,
a pretend farmer like me. So I think if you're willing to join, look, I'm willing to stick my 2 cents in on the legal end of this, in interpreting some of these provisions, et cetera. I'm not necessarily looking to be an official member of the subcommittee, but this is of sufficient importance that I'm certainly going to be meaningfully involved.
I mean, Rick, I can be on I can do it limited, you know, like I just said, the business association, any information I find, I can forward it to Krista to get to everybody, or to give it to Mike here or something like that. But I just can't do it full time right now because of the season that I'm in, unfortunately. But I can be limited in helping, if that's okay.
I think that's fine.
Hmm.
Anybody else like to get involved?
Rick, what is it that we want to find out? Everything that we can know pre the governor signing it, and, you know, pre-regulations being set up?
Well, or even after the governor signs it, I mean, assuming that they're looking to sign the bill the way it is, but with a few changes that really have no relevance to East Amwell, I think we could start taking the deep dive now on what's in here that's relevant to us. I don't think it's becoming an expert on the entire 240 pages. I flipped through a 30-page summary, and there's a lot in, I suspect, in that 240 pages that's irrelevant to us. In other words, the way these licenses get doled out in some cases depends on the size of your municipality, how much crime you've had in your municipality. When I was looking at the summary, most of that's not applicable to us. We're too small. We don't have high crime. You know, we don't have a lot of the issues that are dealt with in these 240 pages. So I think most of it is actually not going to be relevant to us at all.
Yeah.
What we're really trying to get our arms around is, what do we want to do in East Amwell? Do we want to let people grow it? Do we want to let people process it? Do we want to let people sell it? We can't stop deliveries. So the notion that we can keep marijuana out of East Amwell, we can't. If somebody wants to buy it and they are following the appropriate protocols, we can't stop the delivery service from delivering it to their house. So the notion that we can keep marijuana out of East Amwell, that's not going to happen. So it's really a question of how much do we want to get involved in the process, the growing, the processing, the distributing, the retail sales. That's what I think the committee would be focusing on. And I actually think this is going to be an interesting project.
Yeah, I think Elena, you know, started us off with a couple of good questions, which would be a nice place for the committee to start. But then I agree with Rick. It's a matter of looking at the proposed legislation, understanding the 6 different groups, deciding which of those might work in East Amwell and which wouldn't. And of the ones that work, where should they be located? I mean, it sounds like the legislation would automatically dump them, in Ringo's, but maybe that's not the best place for them. Maybe if we are going to have a retail, use, maybe that should be somewhere else.
And would you also imagine the committee would try and envision how, I mean, it seems like a highly relevant question is, what do people in East Amwell think?
Right.
That's something for later, or is that something you're thinking the committee needs to think about?
I think the committee needs to get its arms around what we're up against first and come to some idea as to what we think may be okay or not okay. But
Okay.
then we have to roll it out to the public. That's why I trifurcate this. We need to get our arms around it.
Okay.
Then we need a couple of months to roll this out to the public and get public input. And then we need some time to implement. How much time we need to implement in part depends on where we ultimately come out on this after the first two stages. If we decide to prohibit everything, then implementing it probably won't be that difficult. But if we decide that we're going to allow some components of this, then you're into what Tam was just discussing, which is, for example, if we're going to allow retail sales, we have to figure out where.
Right.
And I think she's right. The village may not be the right place, but maybe the south end of 202 in the municipality might be the right place if we're looking to entertain allowing retail sales and capturing the additional tax revenue that we could capture from those sales, which I think for retail sales is a 2% excise tax.
Yeah, it is.
That could generate a meaningful amount of money. The taxes are 1% on certain operations and 2% on others. And if they're limiting the number of licenses and Pennsylvania is behind us, putting something on 202 near the Pennsylvania border could potentially generate a lot of revenue if that's what we want to do. And I'm not saying that's what we should be doing. I'm just throwing out ideas.
I think that's a good idea, Rick. And then you put a snack shack next door. More revenue there.
Yep.
But my understanding is that the processing centers are going to be like county run, because they're building the processing center as we speak in the old Walmart on Route 22 in White House. That's going to be a complete county processing center where the people can bring whatever they're growing the marijuana to get it processed. So I don't know if people knew that or not. I just found that out recently on the internet. They're saying, what the heck are they building in the Walmart on 22 in White House? And that's what they're doing, a processing center. So we might want to look into that, because I don't think that's going to be a problem here. I don't think there's going to be a processor here. I think it's going to be cultivating and retail. No processing or manufacturing or wholesale. I think you're only going to have two of the components here, not all four.
Right, and wholesale is probably going to be pretty innocuous.
Yeah.
So wherever that is, that's probably going to be, that's going to be relatively low impact.
Right.
It's the cultivating and the retail that I think are going to be the more interesting. And the two components that are really practical for East Amwell. So
anybody else want to be on that committee? I kind of have my hands full.
You think?
I'll help.
I was hoping you would say that one.
Thanks, Maureen.
Okay.
So we've got Mike and John on a limited and Marnie. So we've got three, even if John's an information gatherer, we've got three people from our committee. Rick, you're going to work on John
Mills.
And I'll reach out to Tracy.
Okay.
I'll reach out to her first thing tomorrow morning and ask her to poll the masses on the Board of Health.
Yeah. I just did a little bit of research. My mother-in-law has her medical card because she's had cancer. So I was looking through, they actually have a menu that has all their, all the gummies, all the, everything you want. So, and I was just looking at the actual weed, not the gummies and all that stuff, but they're at like $480 an ounce.
Yep.
Retail.
Whoa.
So I just did a quick number. So if you have a retail outlet that sells 50 ounces a day, and we limit them to 5 days a week being open, the township's pulling in $104,000 in a year, just off of 5 days. And that's 50 ounces a day, which I don't know, I don't know what kind of numbers you're talking about, but I just plugged a number in there. That's $100,000 for doing nothing. So.
Well, and if we got to keep that, you're talking about 6 to 7% of our operating budget, $100,000 into the operating budget.
Yeah.
That would be unbelievable.
It's,
in terms of what could be done to fix roads, to do the multi-use facility we'd like to do in Clausen Park. There's a lot that could be done with that money that needs to be done that ultimately could result in tax increases we would be able to avoid.
Yeah, the DUI increases in tickets.
Well, that might also be another concern that people might be concerned
That's why I'm
about.
bringing it up. So.
Right, but if they're going to put one on 202 in West Amwell, right on our border, we're going to have the same issues and we're not going to get the revenue.
Right.
Yeah.
So, one of the neighboring municipalities is going to do this. I mean, if you're talking about 6 figures added to your budget, it's only a matter of time before at least one of our neighboring municipalities are going to do it, and we're going to have whatever issues we're going to have, but we're not getting any of the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could locate it in the right area on 202 and get the revenue, it may not be the worst thing in the world.
No. Especially if you don't, if you don't allow, a consumption area, they're just coming to buy it and they've got to leave. So
right.
They're drive-in, and it's going to be a drive-in. They're going to drive in, say, I want an ounce of that. Boom, there you go. Then down the road they're going to go. They can't sit there and smoke. So,
That's it. So, I like I said, I think this is going to be a very interesting and important project, and I'd like to be a leader rather than a follower, because I suspect a lot of the other municipalities aren't going to jump on this the way we are. I'd like to be out there taking the lead, because if we do want to do this, I'd like to be toward the head of the line.
Yeah, for sure. So you'll keep in touch with the members from the Township Committee and the Health Department and get everybody hooked together, Rick?
Yeah, I will. I'll report back after I talk to John Mills and to Tracy.
Okay.
I will let you and Marnie know what's going on as the chair and vice chair.
Okay.
I don't want to be sending emails to the entire planning board because I don't want to run afoul of the Open Public Meetings Act, but I'll keep you guys in the loop.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Does anybody else have any more on that?
Nope.
Elena, thank you for your interpretation on that and your work on that. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem. And if the subcommittee ever, has any questions, they can feel free to reach out to me, either call me on my phone or you send me an email. Not a problem.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
No problem.
Okay, moving on. Oral reports.
John, you want to go first?
Sure.
Real quick?
Me or?
Yeah, let John do his thing real quick, Mike, and then we'll go for it.
Yeah, Tim, I wanted to.
I'm sorry. Yes.
I wanted to recommend to the planning board that we do a resolution thanking Gail Glassoff and Francis Gavigan for their service to the community here, because I really think they have done so over the years. On Gail, I'll give you a little background. She was one of the first Republicans ever put on a committee, which was the planning board. And I had attended meetings when the EADA was in charge. And Gail was one of the most calming effects of diffusing volatile situations on the planning board when she was there. And I really think that a thank you from this committee should be sent to Gail and to Francis, who I've known both for many years, really have the community at heart. And I'm a little disappointed that they, were not, put back on the committee. I really didn't even know until recently. But I think that the committee here, if they all see fit, should do a resolution and thank you for the two people who have put a lot of time and effort into this community.
I agree 100%. I agree. Both served our township very, very well and very dedicated.
And for a long time,
Yes.
for a very long time. I agree.
So can I make that motion for the committee to prepare a resolution? I guess I don't know who would do it, how it would be done, but make a motion to give a resolution of thanks to both Gail Glassoff and Francis Gavigan.
I don't know how it would work either, John, to be honest.
That's why I'm asking Yolanda down there.
Can't unmute. There I go. Well, you can do it by acclamation. You can do it tonight, or you can have either Krista or I write an official resolution, or you can write an official resolution and send it to me, and I can format it into a resolution, and you can
Let's
pass
put
that.
I'm good with numbers, Yolanda, okay?
I'm sorry?
I'm good with numbers, not with language.
Well, if you can give me information and I'll put it into the appropriate language, and you can do it next month, and we can take that signed resolution and send it to both Ms. Glassoff and Ms. Gavigan, and that would be a nice thing for them to have.
Okay, good. So I can just give like bullet points to you and you can format it?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do that.
Great. Thanks, John, for taking the lead on that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
All right. Nothing major to report except that we had our reorg meeting on Monday, and I'll be the chair for another year. And there's really nothing exciting going on right now, but hopefully we'll get some more properties in next year.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Environmental Commission, do we have anybody?
They haven't had their reorganization yet.
Okay. Okay. Krista, do you have anything?
No, not at this time.
Okay. I don't have anything. So let's move on to the presentation of vouchers. Any discussion needed on these? Then can I get a motion to approve the bills for the evening, please?
I'll move to approve the bills of the evening.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Can I get a motion to open to the public, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody out there would like to speak?
Francis?
Yeah, there is a large.
Francis, just state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sure, Francis Gavigan, 123 Wurtsville Road, Ringgoes, New Jersey. Because of the medical marijuana, there are some vertically integrated and large firms that are operating in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, not only growing, but also preparing it and opening dispensaries across the state. A firm called TerraSend, and they apparently can grow in Pennsylvania. So Boonton is not that far from here. So they might be somebody who would have some interest in having a local dispensary if you were so moved to have something down there, either on the highway or at the end by West Amwell. And the only other thing I'd like to say is it's been a pleasure to work with Tim, John, many of you over the years. And while I'm not on the board, I'm not going away. Take care and have a good life.
Thank you, Francis. Thanks for everything. We appreciate all your help. Anybody else from the public? Can I get a motion to close the meeting to the public, please?
I'll move.
Second.
Who
All
moved
in
it?
favor?
Hold on, who moved it?
I did, Krista.
Okay, and who was second?
I did.
John,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Correspondence, there's none, Krista?
No.
All right, then my favorite part of the night. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll
So
move
moved
that.
to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh.
Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Be safe.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.